Margaret, what is the main takeaway from what we heard from the Pontiff today?
Well, hi, Mark. He really didn't mince words. I mean, in terms of where he stands on climate change, he said this is something that the world cannot wait for future generations to tackle, and it has to be done now. And he very directly praised President Obama for taking big steps in that direction, including his sort of approach to emissions. And in doing so, although the Pope would certainly say that he is not acting as a politician in any way, he is stepping right into a pretty divisive political debate in the U.S. When you listen to what he said at the White House today, you can see exactly what he did.
Margaret, it's interesting because as the Pope was en route to the United States, he told reporters on his plane that it was a mistake to characterize him as a liberal.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, on that level, he's talking about many of these social issues, whether it's forgiveness for women who have had abortions in the past, or whether it's acceptance of gays who say they're searching for their faith, more an embrace of some liberalization on annulments. What he's saying is he's not changing the church's doctrine. He is espousing the idea that the Catholic Church can be inclusive and not push people away while holding true to their values. But when it comes to climate change and economic policy, he is, let's say, not in line with most members of the Republican Party in Congress.
And Margaret, as you mentioned, the Pope did speak about climate change, and he was very direct. Some saw it as a challenge to the United States. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Accepting the urgency, it seems clear to me also that climate change is a problem we can no longer be left to a future generation.
Margaret, in that sense, the Pope is trying to bring about a climate change, a clarion call, if you will, to deal with this. But as you mentioned, those on the right, do they feel that the Pope is taking sides?
Well, you know, it depends on who on the right. There are many Republicans in Congress who are thrilled that the Pope is here. Republican Catholics, including House Speaker John Boehner, will welcome him warmly when he goes to address Congress tomorrow. And the Pope himself suggested he does not want to politicize this visit or, you know, turn people away, that he wants people to talk about his message. But on Wall Street, for example, where the Pope has, both on climate change and on issues like economic inequality, he's at times called money the devil's dung when it is used in a way that he has felt has enslaved people. Many of his messages are kind of open to interpretation in terms of what he means and what he wants. It's sort of in the eye of the beholder.
Margaret, put into context for us this Pope and his ability to have a message that resonates with people and also have a message that, as you mentioned, is subject to interpretation. For example, income inequality. The Pope has spoken out very strongly on this issue, and it is an issue that is now part of the 2016 U.S. presidential campaign.
Well, that's certainly right. And it's obviously possible for a pope to address this as a moral issue that is, you know, independent of politics, but for Democrats to want to take advantage of that when they are also seizing on it as a rallying cry to turn out voters, working class and middle class voters. Now, at the same time, if you look at the Pope's numbers in the United States, we have a new Bloomberg politics poll out today that shows the Pope is incredibly popular across party lines. He's at a 64% favorability rating. And when you compare that with President Obama, Vice President Biden, anyone in the Republican leadership in Congress, all of the presidential candidates, he is head and shoulders more popular than any of these political leaders right now. So he does, and really this does convey across partisan lines, even as there are Republicans who aren't thrilled about his engagement, his advocacy on issues like capitalism and the environment. They still like him very much and have an openness, a receptiveness to his message. So.
Margaret, we have about 30 seconds left. What might we expect from the Pope's address to Congress? Is he going to revisit these themes?
It's entirely likely that he will, although it's also entirely likely that his approach may be a little bit more strategic. Again, I think it's unlikely that he will be calling individuals out. Much more likely, if he follows kind of the themes that he set forth so far, that he will be talking about the United States' special role and special responsibility to make a big impact in the world, whether it involves the plight of refugees, the ways to help immigrants without running afoul of a country's own desires, and again, obligations to the environment in the context of a gift that God has left for the world. So it will be very interesting to see. He's keenly aware of not wanting his visit to become politicized, and I think we'll see that reflected in his remarks tomorrow.